Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much. Hi. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's so great to be here. I'm really delighted to be at Kent State, and thank you all for coming out tonight. It's such a gorgeous day out there. If I were you, I'd still be out playing Frisbee, but here we are. And there's good reason for us to be here. We know where we are in the election cycle, and we know how close everything is, and we are so excited to come and talk with you, all of you here tonight. We've got a great panel lined up. We're going to do this live show, as President Warren said, and thank you, President Warren, for that very nice introduction. We love taking this show out on the road. We have taken it all over the country. To be here in this great battleground state with young voters who are going to be key in the November election at this point in the election cycle is just a great opportunity for us. So we're psyched to be here tonight. We're going to start off with a little music just to give you a little pleasure and hope that you have some fun. We hope the whole night is fun and serious at the same time. We're going to have the Apple Stompers come out in just a moment and delight you with a couple of numbers. And then I will come out, we'll set up, we'll be all ready to do a live show. My engineers are waiting back in Boston to catch it when we pitch it, and it'll be on the air all over the country tomorrow. So it's a big night for us. I hope we make it a big night for you. Please join me in welcoming, come on out guys, the Apple Stompers. Are they in the house? Hello, yes. Apple Stompers. Thanks. Take it away. Thank you very much. A couple of numbers and we'll be back to get the show going. Apple Stompers.
Give him one, John. Jumping out of my frying pan, right into your fire. I was born to be an honest man, but I grew up just being a liar. It don't matter whatever you need, always come along, get it from me. Jumping out of my frying pan, right into your fire, my girl, right into your fire, boy. Fire, my girl, right into your fire. Get it, boy. Stay out till closing time before we head back home. Walk down by the riverside so we can be alone. Don't matter whatever you need, always come along, get it from me. Jumping out of my frying pan, right into your fire, my girl, right into your fire. Fire. I was born to be an honest man, but I grew up just being a liar. It don't matter whatever you need, always come along, get it from me. Jumping out of my frying pan, right into your fire, my girl, right into your fire. Thank you, folks. Lay it down in the shade of a tree by that old river run. I just can't be what you wanted of me. No, I was not the one. Well, I know where you've been. I'm never gonna see you again. Oh, my true love. Place them flowers on your headstone. Never shed one single tear. I don't know why I've been gone so long. I just know that I had to despair. Well, I know where you've been. I'm never gonna see you again. Oh, my true love. Been 10 years since I've last seen your face. Doubt if it still looks the same. I don't know why I've been stuck in this old place. I just know that I'm the one to blame. Well, I know where you've been. I'm never gonna see you again. Oh, my true love. Well, I know where you've been. I'm never gonna see you again. Hey, I know where you've been. I'm never gonna see you again. Oh, my true love. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Johnny and the Apple Stompers, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you very much. Isn't that great? Thank you very much. Come on over. Let me introduce you. Hey, that's rousing applause. Johnny and the Apple Stompers. If you don't have it, get their latest album, Far From the Tree. Let me introduce Johnny Miller on lead guitar and vocals. Well done, sir. Corey Grinder on fiddle and vocals. Corey. Jason Willis on upright bass, gives us that percussion even without drums. And Stephen Carney on pedal steel. Really awesome. Fantastic. Johnny, tell us how you guys got the group together. It's a great sound. We saw you on YouTube. We thought we're going to Kent State. This would be a really fun way to kick it off. How did you all get together?
Well, we used to play down on the street all the time and just walked by one day and said, hey, can I play with you guys? And I said, sure.
So you started on the street right here in Kent?
No, I was in Cuyahoga Falls, but we used to play in Kent all the time as well.
We've got a bench in Kent we use a lot.
All right, and you call it country, bluegrass, hillbilly music. Do you all come out of that tradition, or you just picked it up and ran with it?
Well, probably a little bit of both. I know we all got kind of a hillbilly tradition in our shoes, if you will.
Yeah.
We smell like it.
You know, I didn't notice that. I must not be standing close enough. I'll stand a little closer. Okay, I won't stand any closer. Tell us about pedal steel. Did you start off on this, or with pedal steel, do you start off on guitar and then move to, how does that work?
Well, I started out on guitar, but I've been playing pedal steel about 7 years.
It's such a gorgeous instrument. I mean, between that and the big bass and these beautiful things, and how do you, what's the difference between the two, what do you call them, necks?
Yeah, two different necks, two different tunings.
So do you play on both necks within a single song, possibly?
Sometimes.
Is one major and one minor, or that's not the...
No, you can get minor keys out of both necks. That's where the pedals come in. You can change the tunings on the fly.
That's great. And these days, what's your best audience for country bluegrass, Johnny?
Whoever wants to listen to it, really.
That is salt of the earth talk right there. And how did you come up on violin? Did you start off on like fiddling, or did you start off classically trained?
I played a little classical music. Never was really the right fit until I played a little fiddle.
And then you got happy.
Very happy.
What about bass? Did you start off playing, I don't know, Bach or what?
No washtub for me, no. I was a electric player for, 6 years before I picked up upright, so, yeah.
What was that like, transferring from, rock and roll bass to upright?
Terrifying, pretty much. No frets, so,
So you've got to know where all the notes are.
Yeah, pretty much, muscle memory.
Yeah. I used to play trombone. It's similar but different.
He's actually a fantastic symphony upright bass player.
Is that right?
I do some. I did at UA. I played orchestral over there. So.
Oh, sorry. Some joint. I don't know. Some other place. I know. It's the big competition. Well, now that you've said those words, we got to kick you out. Listen, this was really fun. We always like to kick it off strong and kick it off with fun, and you guys do that just amazingly. Far From the Tree is the album. We wish you great luck with it. We look forward to your next one as well. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Big round of applause for Johnny and the Apple Stompers. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Woo, 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 woo. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to set up and do this. Are you ready to see a live show unfold right here? Are we going to do it? All right, let's do it. You will hear me do this on air, but because thank you very much, Abby. Abby Ruzika, one of my producers from Boston, who's come out here to do this in Kent, Ohio. Eileen Amata, my director, every single day at On Point right here. The whole posse, the whole squad is in the house for you tonight. You'll hear me introduce these people, these lovely people with me on stage again when we go to tape, to air, but let me just do it once right here. I've got China Baldwin, who is a junior here and president of Black United Students. China, thank you very much for being here tonight. You got Jimmy Miller, senior editor-in-chief of the Kent Stater. Thank you for being here, Jimmy. We've got everybody. We've got Jennifer Hutchinson, who is a senior and president of the Kent State College Republicans. Thank you for being here, Jennifer. Hannah Barkowitz, junior, president of the Kent State College Democrats, sitting peacefully right next to one another. And very happy to have Professor Michael Ensley with us, political science here at Kent State. So I'm going to do all of that again in just a moment. Now, we're all putting our headsets on because in radio land you have headsets because you've got to hear every little nuance, and that's the way we do it, is by having the headset and the mic right here. Everything will happen inside. And let me explain what's going to happen. If I go to my headset, am I still on the house audio? Can I move to this? Okay, let's do it. Can you hear me? You can hear me just fine? All right. I never feel like I'm fully in radio land unless I have headsets on. In the studio, of course, we have headsets because we have guests from all around the country, all around the world. If you listen to On Point, you know we'll have people on from Kabul or, Strasbourg or Washington, New York, LA, all over the place. We love to take the show on the road because we get voices right out of the middle of where things are happening. It's a lot of fun. It works like this. You see the clock up here. We have 3 segments to the show. There's 2 station breaks that NPR hands down to us when we've got to be out for those, and they bring in their underwriting and all the things that support WKSU and all the other stations that we appear on around the country. So we will dive in. We'll do a first segment. We'll go out. We'll do a second segment. We'll go out, and then we'll wrap it up. Because it's a live show, because it's in an auditorium like this, it's very well mic'd. And thank you, Joe, and the whole engineering staff here for all your help with that. It's really been great working with you guys. But it's going to have a little bit different sound when it goes out broadcast nationally because it's in an open hall. To make that make sense to our listening audience around the country, it helps if they understand that you're here and they can hear you here. So I'm going to ask for your help with that, and it works kind of like this. When we get going, I am going to read the opening script here, and then dive in with my crew here. But when I'm doing that, I'm going to during the show again and again, I'll say, here we are at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio, whatever it is. And whenever I'm doing that, hosted by WKSU, I'm going to give one of these. And when I do that, I hope you'll give a big round of applause. That way people know they're in a hall, there's people there. That's why it sounds kind of, big. Can we try that? So let's just try it out. I want to see what kind of you got here. So if I say to our guests in the hall and listeners across the country, welcome to On Point Live, can you? Oh yeah, yes. That's awesome. Sometimes there are some audiences that I have to say, no, that's not enough. You guys got it. Kent State, you've got it. That's beautiful. Cool. Are you all ready? Are you all ready? Okay. Let's do this. Eileen, are you ready? Most importantly, she's ready. Everybody, Joe, everybody good? Okay, we are taping this on Facebook Live, so if you want to go back later and see it again, you'll be able to do that, which is kind of fun. I took a little tour around the campus this afternoon, which is also up on Facebook Live, and you can check that out. All right, we're going to do this. There's one thing I got to look up here. 1 second. Looking at the polls today. Okay. All right. Good. Everybody happy? Okay. This is going to be national tomorrow, so let's do it right tonight. Eileen, good? From WBUR Boston and NPR, I'm Tom Ashbrook, and this is a special edition of On Point. We are on stage with a live audience at Kent State University in Ohio. To our guests in the hall and listeners across the country, welcome to On Point Live. All right. Kent State has history. We all know it. Vietnam War era protest and a deadly reply. The Ohio National Guard killing 4 on this campus in May 1970, wounding 9, and national outrage and dismay. Today, Kent State movingly honors the lessons of that hard history. It does not forget. And we are here for the news of 2016 to talk with students of this time about how they see the world, the country, and the country's choices. Ohio is a major battleground state. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have been neck and neck. In the latest poll, he's ahead in Ohio. We want to know what students here see and care about as Ohio and the nation prepare to vote. This hour On Point from Ohio with the students of Kent State. We are recording the show with a great audience from the heart of the campus at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. Students in the hall, students on stage, questions from the audience already in hand, and we are ready to go. I've got a cast of thousands, or 5 actually, with me on stage here at the Student Center. Let me introduce them. Jimmy Miller, a senior and editor-in-chief of the Kent Stater, the independent newspaper at Kent State. Jimmy Miller, great to have you right here. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Yes, Jimmy. Hannah Barkowitz is here, a junior at Kent State, president of the Kent College Democrats. Welcome to On Point, Hannah.
So excited to be here. Thank you.
Jennifer Hutchinson is here, a senior, president of the Kent State College Republicans. Jennifer Hutchinson, welcome. Wonderful to have you.
Thanks for having me.
China Baldwin is with us, a junior at Kent and president of Black United Students, a political organization devoted to serving and unifying black students at Kent State. China, wonderful to have you right here.
Thank you so much.
And last but not least, Michael Ensley, Associate Professor of Political Science at Kent State. His focus, American elections and voting behavior. This is timely. Welcome, Professor Michael Ensley. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We're on the stage and we're ready to go, and it's a very, very interesting time that we're sitting down here. We have new polls out this week, Bloomberg, CNN, and Donald Trump is up by 5 points in Ohio. This is a key battleground state, and everybody knows it. Just as interestingly, maybe, for this conversation tonight, Hillary Clinton is only polling. This is in a four-way race with Trump, Clinton, Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, and Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate. She's only drawing about 30-some% support from young people, 18 to 29. Barack Obama, in both of his victories, got more than 60% of that vote. This is a big deal all across the country, and certainly here in Ohio. Hannah, let me come first to you. You're head of the College Democrats. Why is Hillary Clinton not doing better among young potential voters in Ohio?
Oh man, Tom. Well, I think a lot of millennials obviously were a big supporter of Bernie Sanders and his policy. A lot of people have trouble sort of differentiating between the policy and the candidate. A lot of people have problems with who Hillary Clinton is as a candidate, her voting records, and I get it. It's important, though, to move forward that we realize that, we're all stronger together, and Bernie Sanders has said that himself.
You watch all of this as editor of the paper, Jimmy. Do you have a sense? I mean, we walked around campus today. We got some of this on Facebook Live. We went down to the Student Center. We went live on Facebook with the video. We walked up to the first group of students that we saw. There was 3 handsome young guys from Cleveland. And we said, who are you supporting? And the first thing they said was not Trump and not Clinton. They said, we're voting Green Party for Jill Stein. Do you think that they and others will come around to one or the other of the major party candidates before November? Or are they going to stay in the trench of their Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, you name it, or Bernie and just don't vote for anybody?
Well, I think, that is, we'll see coming this Saturday. Bernie Sanders is visiting campus.
This may be not an accident. I mean, after these not good polls for Hillary, we've got Bernie coming here to Kent State.
To try to convince millennial voters who he appeals to
You've got Elizabeth Warren coming to Ohio. You've got Chelsea Clinton coming to Ohio in the next 48 hours, I'm told. The troops are arriving. Is it going to change minds?
Time is yet to tell. I would guess that we've looked at past elections, particularly in 2008. You referenced Obama,
yep.
Where a lot of millennials look toward the third-party candidate up until the very last moment, and then they switch to one of the two-party candidates, Democratic or Republican. So I would anticipate the same kind of thing to happen this year.
China. It just so happens that those 3 guys we talked to were African American students here at Kent State. They just laid it right out. They didn't mince any words about it. I mean, color's not the main thing here. It just happened that that's. But when you look at the minority vote, is it any different from the vote overall among young voters to your mind?
Yeah, definitely. I think students of color are having a really hard time kind of going either way. I think a lot of people have the feeling of it's the lesser of two evils. And I think right now people are still kind of on the fence and are easily swayed kind of based on what they're seeing from the different candidates. But I think as time comes around, they'll definitely go one way or the other. But usually when I ask anybody, the first thing I hear is not Trump. So
in this case, they said not Trump, not Clinton. I said to them, well, hey guys, you've got Barack Obama, very unusually now, as a sitting candidate out really stumping for his potential successor, Hillary Clinton. That has not often been done, really out there for her. And I said, does he sway you? They said no.
Yeah.
Does it surprise you? I mean, the black vote in particular was key to Barack Obama's victories.
Definitely. I don't think his support necessarily is going to sway anybody. I think it's really easy to assume because he's a black man, he's a black president, that every black person is going to support him, and that's definitely not the case. Especially with this election, I think people are taking voting more seriously, and they're taking the issues a lot more seriously because they're afraid of what might happen if they don't vote and if they don't really decide on their own. So I don't think necessarily him endorsing Clinton is going to sway their vote.
They're afraid. What do you mean by that? Afraid of what?
They're afraid of having a leader that's really representing them. One of the things I was talking about at one of our
Meaning
meetings.
that they might not have such a leader.
Yeah, exactly. So I think people are afraid of having somebody that is supposed to be their representation that isn't an accurate representation of the country that we're in. So I think people are really afraid to have somebody that is openly embodying so many viewpoints that they're against. And really both candidates have shown some kind of discourse, and I think people are definitely afraid of that, of having somebody that are making the decisions that are going to affect them on a day-to-day basis that might have these racial biases against them. I think that's the fear.
Hillary Clinton? I mean, the Clintons have had famously strong African-American support over time.
Definitely.
So you think they're afraid of her being biased against them?
Not necessarily biased, but I think their fear is that she's not going to put their concerns first and foremost.
Jennifer Hutchinson, you're head of the College Republicans here. Now, the last time we checked in with you, your group had not endorsed Donald Trump.
Correct.
Have you endorsed Donald Trump at this point?
We have not. We don't endorse any candidates.
Ever? No, in no election?
Nope.
Oh, okay, so it's not a big deal that you haven't endorsed.
No presidential election. We don't endorse candidates, especially at this point. We just don't feel that it's a necessary thing for us to do, considering we are the college Republicans. Seems a bit redundant or unnecessary for us to go out and endorse every single Republican candidate on the Republican ticket.
I don't know. This is the guy who's running for president. Maybe it wouldn't be so irrelevant. Do you enthusiastically, as a group, support Donald Trump, whether he's got a formal nomination or endorsement or not?
Within our organization and with many organizations across Ohio and throughout the country, there's definitely some divide, specifically in this election. One of the things that we've been doing specifically is we've really prioritized doing a lot of grassroots efforts for Senator Portman. He's a candidate everybody can get behind.
You've got a big race here. Ted Strickland and Rob Portman
Correct.
fighting for that Senate seat
Correct.
here in Ohio, and of course the whole Senate potentially up for grabs in Washington. This is a big deal.
Correct. And you mentioned earlier how Trump is polling up in the polls in Ohio, and I would think that a lot of that actually really corresponds to how well Senator Portman is doing here in Ohio.
You think he's got the coattails for Donald Trump instead of the other way around?
I think most definitely the better he does in Ohio, the better Donald Trump will do in Ohio.
That's amazing. Michael Ensley, you're watching all this as a professor of political science. What do you make of these latest polls that show Donald Trump up by about 5 points in Ohio? Does either candidate have to have Ohio to win this time? Is the chemistry changing in such a way that maybe North Carolina or Colorado or some other place becomes the big swing state? And what do you make of the polls? Is this a big deal or a blip? How do you look at it?
Well, I don't think this is a blip. I think what you're seeing is Hillary Clinton come down from sort of the high of the Democratic convention, if you will, in the nomination. And so I think you'll see this kind of go back and forth over the next, until Election Day. With regards to Ohio, Trump needs Ohio. Trump can't win this without Ohio. Hillary, she doesn't. In fact, she doesn't need Ohio. She doesn't need Florida. She can still win this entire contest with losing Florida, Ohio, Nevada, and Iowa.
How does she do that? And historically, that is not the case. What's changed?
Well, I think there's been a shift in terms of where Democratic support is and where electoral votes are. With every reapportionment, votes get distributed around the country, and the nature of Democratic support is changing. And it just, put it this way, in order for Trump to win, he has to win everything Romney won, which includes the close states of Georgia and North Carolina. Also win Florida, Ohio, Nevada, and Iowa, which are all basically toss-ups at this point.
Okay.
And then still find another state in there to win, maybe Pennsylvania, maybe Virginia, or Wisconsin. Those are probably the three next closest. And he's still about 5 points behind. So Ohio is critical to Trump. If he can't win Ohio, I don't see how he can get a path to the presidency. Clinton can do without Ohio.
Here we are. He's 5 points up by these latest polls anyway. And these things can change, but nearing the end of September now. Is that a big deal? Does that mean he's got it? Is it still wide open?
I expect this to sort of go up and down over the next 6 weeks or so as we sort of go back and forth. And certainly you'll see some responses to the debates depending on how they perform. But I expect it to stay close. For the most of the last 5 to 6 months, it's been about 2 or 3 points between them, and it's narrowed here a bit in Trump's favor, but I expect it to sort of vacillate back and forth over the next several weeks.
Jimmy, you're the editor here at the Kent Stater. Is the campus paying close attention?
It's hard to measure because a lot of the discourse that happens isn't necessarily on campus. Because we're college students, a lot of us happen to talk about it more often on social media.
Wow, so even at Kent State, the real action may be online, on social media, rather than
here in the green, here in the quad.
That's what I've gathered. I think that that's primarily where a lot of the discourse is.
We are at Kent State looking at the election of 2016 with students and Professor Michael Ensley here on the stage. China Baldwin is with us, Hannah Barkowitz, Jennifer Hutchinson, Jimmy Miller, and a live audience here in Kent, Ohio. We've got questions from you and from the audience. We'll go to them. I'm Tom Ashbrook. This is On Point Live, and we will be right back. I'm Tom Ashbrook at Kent State University in beautiful Ohio, and this is On Point Live. We are stepping back here in Kent, Ohio for a big look at the 2016 campaign this hour with students from Kent State University. We've got the presidents of the College Democrats and Republicans, Hannah Barkowitz and Jennifer Hutchinson, the editor of the student newspaper, the Kent Stater, Jimmy Miller. China Baldwin is here, president of Black United Students, and political science professor Michael Ensley is with us. We want to know what the youngest American voters are thinking in a big battleground state in the heart of this campaign season. We've got a great audience in the hall. I want to bring in the voices of just a couple of other, not guests, but they're out on the trail and you know them well. Speaking in Charlotte, North Carolina, last Friday, Hillary Clinton blasted Donald Trump as a singular threat to the country.
This is a time to put country over party. I would be saying that even if I were not running against him. We have never been threatened as much by a single candidate running for president as we have been in this election.
Hillary Clinton right there. Then, about with pneumonia, she's back on the trail today. Here was Donald Trump Wednesday night in Canton, Ohio, just a half hour south of us here at Kent State.
Hillary Clinton's record as Secretary of State is one of historic failure. Everything went wrong.
And the boos rained down. They were boos for Hillary Clinton. Latest polls show Donald Trump up by 5 points in Ohio after Hillary had led for a while after the Democrats' Philadelphia convention. First students we talked to on the campus today said they had been for Bernie Sanders and that they were not now going to turn to either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. I want to talk about that for a second. And Jimmy, your sense of what exactly it was that made Bernie Sanders such an overwhelming favorite among young Americans and young potential voters here at Kent State?
Well, it's the student debt issue. You know, I think when he talks about college education, you know, that message resonates loud with students here.
Simple as that? Do you see, Hannah, is that the whole story? Hillary Clinton talks about student debt as well.
I don't think that's the whole story. I think it's a lot of the story,
Yeah.
but I think that Hillary Clinton is painted as this lying criminal, and a lot of people buy into that. And so with Bernie Sanders, he seemed to be in the public eye of more of this like pure, genuine politician. People really, really were attracted to that, especially millennials.
So more pure China, is there something about how young people are looking at the state of the country that made Donald Trump seem not the right way to go, Hillary Clinton not way to go? What is it about how they see their prospects in life that might have turned them toward Bernie Sanders?
I think he just was kind of what Hannah was kind of talking about. He was really, his main points were things that are relevant to millennials. And I think that's what's the most relatable piece. I know Donald Trump speaks a lot
Democratic
about
socialism. He was saying what?
Definitely.
Well, what did that mean to you, do you think, to most people who supported him?
I think it was just, like I said, a lot of the main points that he was talking about were things that were relevant to us. And I think that overall, with people in general, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who is spending their time on issues that are more relevant to them and their experience. So I think that's who he was.
You're a junior at Kent State now. One more year and you'll be out in the world if you don't go on to graduate school, maybe in the job market. Do you feel confident about the American economy these days and the direction it's taking right in front of you and over longer term?
I'm a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie. I think this presidential race is gonna tell a lot. Overall, I think that's kind of how I feel about it. I think there's a lot happening, and I think this is a really iconic moment in our history as far as our country, and I think what ends up happening is going to be important for us later on. So for example, one of the things that I notice whenever I go out of the country, a lot of times people will ask like, okay, well, they'll ask about Obama. They're like, how do you like Obama? Because that's your president, that is your representative of your country. So if anything else, people know about us because of our president. So I think how people are going to continue to view America as a country is going to be really dependent on who we elect this year.
Jennifer, you're head of the college Republicans. Hillary Clinton, the candidates both attack each other. Hillary Clinton attacks Donald Trump, saying he's unfit to be president. He's temperamentally unfit to be president. He was pretty wild in the Republican primary debates. I mean, he really went at people. He's been, I've been to his rally and seen he can really fire up a crowd. He used language that was much more incendiary, much more racially oriented. He seemed to be calling out a kind of white support many times. Is that of concern to you? Do you think he's temperamentally fit to be president of the United States?
I think drawing off of what Hannah said a little bit earlier, I think we much more need to focus on the party, not necessarily the candidate. We need to focus on the issues, not necessarily the candidate. So, I mean, at the end of the day, no matter who the candidate is, the issues are still the same. And so, a lot of the times it's not what you're saying, it's how you say it. And so at the end of the day, it's still the issues that he's bringing up that are important to a lot of people.
But he's taken positions and issues in directions that conventional Republicans never would. I mean, he's come out very, very strongly against international trade deals. Now, Bill Clinton had a lot to do with getting, let's say, NAFTA through, but it was driven ideologically from the Republican camp and has continued to be. That's not a Republican position. He's talking right now about child care in a way that no Republican candidate has before. So is he really representing the Republican Party at large?
I'm not saying everybody agrees to the rhetoric that Donald Trump uses, but
that's not rhetoric. Those are policy proposals, are they not? I mean, he wants to tear up NAFTA, say no to the TPP. These are not things that Republicans have supported. Excuse me.
I just think at the end of the day, people need to remember that Republicans are for long-term sustainable solutions. So again, like I said, not everybody is going to agree necessarily with what Donald Trump proposes in that fashion, but the party still stands for certain issues, for certain policies that are for sustainable long-term solutions.
Does Donald Trump stand for that? I mean, he came out with a tax plan today that I heard Martin Feldstein, the big economist who supported many Republicans, saying would push the country much deeper into debt. Are you worried about that?
Well, I know millennials are certainly worried about that. For instance, we have an organization within Ohio, it's called the Ohio College Republican Federation. We do a survey every year, we started this back a couple years ago, where we go across the state and we survey students about what issues are most important to them currently. We've been doing that for the last couple of years because our party is very concerned about hearing millennials. I feel so often that people think that students are so vocal, and we are, but we're not always being heard. And so we wanted
in the GOP arena,
in every party. And so specifically, the GOP wanted to offer an outlet for students here to go, we want to hear you, we want to understand how we can help you, we want to understand how we can support that change that you want to see. And so we've been going around putting out the survey, finding out what issues are most important to students here. And just recently we did it here at Kent State, and we found that the most important issue to Kent State students is the student debt issue. And so we've been really trying to work on some policy changes and work with our elected officials to make sure that we can see changes and policies that are going to help students not fear that student debt so much.
Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton have made a lot of that. They have said they would take major steps to reduce that student debt. Donald Trump has been much more vague on that.
Sure. They've definitely made suggestions. They've definitely vocalized how they would go about solving the student debt issue. I'm going to go back to the fact that Republicans want to put common sense, sustainable policies in place that are going to actually produce effective change for students.
That just sounds like language if you don't have a proposal on the table from your candidate to
back it
up.
Well, I think you can call what they're saying just language too. You can talk about putting out free college all you want, but if it's not going to actually be something that you can implement, then it's just talk too.
Hannah, you're head of the College Democrats. I think you got a call maybe today saying, hey, would you sponsor Bernie Sanders this weekend, who's coming to Kent State? How do you explain the Sanders popularity versus Hillary Clinton? I mean, when he was out there and still in the race, he had 75, 80, higher percent, I think, youth support. Hillary now showing maybe a third or somewhere in that range at this moment. We'll see how that changes. How do you explain that, Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, can I respond to something Jen said?
Of course.
I think that the GOP was in the process of making a candidate like Donald Trump if Donald Trump didn't come along. I think the party was using the rhetoric enough to make a candidate almost exactly like Donald Trump, but he came along anyway.
What do you mean?
Yeah, so Ted Cruz uses a lot of hateful rhetoric as well. I think that Republican politicians, when they go and endorse Donald Trump, I think it's sort of like a cop-out a little bit, that they just want, they want the recognition, they want to go along, so they felt like they lost the battle, and they're like, okay, well, I guess we have to.
We'll go with him anyway.
Can I say something
Jennifer,
to that
yeah.
too? Because you mentioned Ted Cruz. Well, we also had a candidate like John Kasich that stayed along just as long as Ted Cruz did and didn't use rhetoric like that, and also spoke to a great number of Republicans as well. So I think to pin Republicans in this type of certain, hateful or discriminatory rhetoric isn't really fair, considering we do have candidates that don't speak that way, that don't
get the nomination.
China, what do you say?
I think it's interesting overall, like I said, our president is our representative, right? So I'm the president of my organization. My job is
Black
to be the
United
spokesperson.
Students.
Correct.
Yep.
So my job is to be the spokesperson for that. So no matter what, I am representing the population that I'm representing. I think it's interesting that, our president is going to be representing us as a country, a whole country, and rhetoric's not important to us. That to me is just mind-boggling. That's the way you talk to people. That's the way you deal with people. It's like an empathetic thing, and it's like that just completely gets thrown off the table.
How do you feel about Donald Trump in terms of representing America's diversity, American racial tolerance and acceptance, if it were a Trump presidency?
Yeah, that would
Speak.
be
You got the microphone.
You're right. That would be non-existent, I believe.
What do you mean? What would be non-existent?
I don't think there would be any effort really put into making sure that he's using rhetoric that's appropriate. He's not even politically correct half the time when he's addressing groups of people. So to be okay with that person, and a person that is negatively talking about people that he's supposed to be supporting, that he's supposed to be for, is
on
just...
the basis of ethnicity or race?
Yeah,
or
of anything. It's just mind-boggling. Even if you don't agree, it's still the commonality of how you speak to people and how you talk to people. And it's just, I think what's been so mind-boggling to me is so many people are okay with having someone that can't even really articulate something without being hateful or hurtful to other people.
Let me come back to you, Hannah, if I may.
Sure.
And the apparent difficulty that Hillary Clinton is having with young people. Now, people may come, they may change. Who knows where they'll go? I mean, they could go, anybody could go to Gary Johnson, they could go to Jill Stein, they could go to Donald Trump, they could come to Hillary Clinton. Why do you think she's had this trouble? What was it, to your mind, about Bernie Sanders that drew people more effectively during the primary season?
Well, I think a lot of millennials in particular are really burned by the two-party system, or they feel burned by the two-party system, and they felt like Bernie Sanders appealed to more of an outside source looking in. They really thought that he was going to create a political revolution, and he was definitely convincing. I think he sparked a lot of passion in a lot of students and a lot of people to get involved in an election they wouldn't have otherwise.
What's the fear that he was speaking to, or the hope of young voters that made them feel we need a political revolution? From your perspective, what are your peers seeing that says we need a revolution here?
I think that they were seeing the same names in office, and they were thinking, I didn't have a say in this. Why is this person getting this much time? I wasn't able to have a say in this. Years ago I wasn't able to vote. Now I'm able to vote. Now I have a voice, and my voice isn't for this person. My voice isn't for the Clintons.
Because
I'm going to reference what I said earlier. I think that they really, really, truly believe that they hear stories of who she is and her voting records, and they don't like it. I've seen a lot of posts on Facebook, and students love to post on Facebook more. I meet Democrats every day of my life, new Democrats who tell me, they are definitely a liberal, they want to get involved, but as far as how often they come out to meetings or get involved, they just don't, for the most part. They really they get this power from being behind a keyboard and being behind a screen. It's this new amount of courage that they have when they feel like they can't confront someone in person.
You've been working hard for the Democratic ticket. What do you say to them to try and bring them around, if that's possible?
You have to
what
be
do you
the
say?
change you want to see in the world. I know it's cliche, but it's so true. If you don't get out and vote, number one, that's so important. Registering voters is only half the battle. You got to get them to the polls. If you don't go out and vote, you don't. First of all, in my opinion, it's a privilege and it's a duty, not a right. And we're so fortunate to have this handed to us on a silver platter. and people just take it for granted, in my opinion. But then again, I'm, you know.
Oh, you're just ahead of the college Democrats at Kent State University. That's all. That's all. We've got questions that have come in on our website and questions here from the audience. Here's one that says, I'm a senior. This is off the On Point Radio website. I'm a senior broadcast journalism student at Kent State. This has been my first election to vote in. I can honestly say I do not know which candidate I will vote for. We're talking mid-September here in the election year. Jimmy, here's the question. I want to know which candidate is going to talk about American citizens like they're humans rather than cattle. What is there something from Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton that seems disrespectful to young people, to your ears? What do you think the student's getting at?
Yeah, you know, I think we've been talking about it this whole time, this rhetoric. I think people really, especially on this campus, millennials, students, really buy into the rhetoric, whether it's Hillary's rhetoric or Donald Trump's rhetoric.
They buy into it or they reject it?
Or that's correct, they reject that rhetoric. Mm-hmm. And when we were talking about Bernie, you know, Bernie was using the kind of rhetoric as a political outsider that people accepted. The difference between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, I mean, they are both viewed by the electorate as political outsiders, but the difference was the rhetoric.
And students don't feel respected because?
I suppose they don't feel respected because social issues really matter to them.
China here is saying, I don't feel respected.
I don't feel respected at all, no.
Why?
I just feel like as a black woman, there's certain issues that are pertinent to me and that are gonna hit me in a certain way. And if I don't see that being a main priority, then I feel like the respect is gone.
I'm sure Hillary Clinton would smack her forehead here and say, but I've been talking of issues of minority America forever.
Yeah, and then I mean, even if it's in the terminology of using the word minority instead of a person of color.
Person of color, okay.
You know, and it's things like that, you know, and I think that's why I said I go back to a lot of the times when we have meetings as Black United students, a lot of the conversations, a lot of times it's the lesser of two evils because, you know, you see one thing and you know politics, it can be a total other thing. And like I said, I don't feel like the issues that are personal to me in my lifestyle and the life that I'm living, and they're not becoming the forefront of that particular person, then I feel like, why should I vote for you?
Michael Kinsley, do you see a new breed of young American voter here at Kent State? Is something different happening in this election season?
Well, I definitely see some dissatisfaction with sort of the existing status quo. So whether it's, you know, the unfulfilled rhetoric, maybe on the Democratic side that I hear China kind of talking about, or if you take Trump's message on the other side that make America great again, well, these are young students. What do you mean again? They're looking at the world in front of them right now. And so it's not surprising that message wouldn't really resonate with young voters. And so if they're left with unfulfilled rhetoric, you know, whether it's going back to Barack Obama and promising change and not getting everything that they'd hoped and thought and, you know, and the dirtiness of politics. And so they're turned off by that. And that's, I think, where you saw the support for Sanders coming from. The revolution, if you want to call it that, is a dissatisfaction. And you know, when you have two parties, there's a limited amount of choice.
I want to come back and look at what young students, Kent State and beyond, are likely to do in the home stretch to the election. Everybody please stand by here in the hall. We are at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. I'm Tom Ashbrook, and this is On Point Live. We'll be right back. I'm Tom Ashbrook at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio, and this is On Point Live. It is mid-September. We are on our way to Election Day now. It will not be long. We wanted to know what young Americans are thinking about it. We brought it right here to Kent State. Kent State has a history of political activism. People know it for the tragic killing of 4 Kent State students, May 4th, 1970. There's a beautiful memorial right here, museum that takes us back to that time. We've been there on our visit to pay our respects right there. Politics are active again right now in this country. Kent State holds that history up as an example of what can go wrong if we don't have good civil discourse and active politics in this country, and I admire the way the university holds that history and considers it. We're looking at the 2016 campaign right here on stage. We have the presidents of the college Democrats and Republicans, Hannah Barkowitz and Jennifer Hutchinson, with us. Editor of the student newspaper, the Kent Stater, Jimmy Miller, is here. China Baldwin, president of Black United Students, is with us. And political science professor Michael Inslee is with us as well. There's a great crowd in the hall. And we have on our mind, yes, There is a spectrum of 4 candidates. 2 really probably are in this in a way that they could win it. Let's listen back. Hillary Clinton at the Democratic National Convention in July.
America's destiny is ours to choose. So let's be stronger together, my fellow Americans. Let's look to the future with courage and confidence. Let's build a better tomorrow for our beloved children and our beloved country.
Hillary Clinton in Philadelphia and Donald Trump. Yes, we were there with him in Cleveland at the Republican National Convention in July in Cleveland, just an hour north of here. Donald Trump.
We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again.
Yeah, Donald Trump at the Republican National Convention. Jimmy Miller, you're head of the newspaper here. Question from the audience. Are most of your peers going to be voting in this election? What do you think?
I think so. I think, especially as editor of the newspaper, I surround myself with very politically active people. So a lot of my friends and people that I talk to about the election, I know that they're planning on going out to vote. In terms of the entire campus, I think, again, that's harder to judge. But I can tell that the political discourse is very engaged on social media.
Jennifer Hutchinson, you're head of the College Republicans. What do you see in terms of turnout this year? Are people fired up? You think you can see a high turnout or not?
I think for the same reasons that people think there would be low turnout are going to be some of the same reasons why we're going to see more young people going out to vote because of the candidates that are out, because people are kind of fed up with what the current election is looking like right now. I think you're actually going to probably see more young people that are going out to vote.
Why? If they're fed up, what will bring them out? Barack Obama brought them out. There was hope and change.
Because this time they're angry and they want to make themselves heard, and so whether that is voting for one of the top 2 candidates or whether it's voting for a third party or a write-in, I think you might actually see more young people going out to the polls almost in protest of what's going on in our politics right now versus just being happy to go out and vote for a candidate they support.
Hannah, if they come out to vote, do you think they'll eventually hew to one of the major party candidates or not? Are they going to come out and make it more of a protest vote, more of a dreamer or an idealistic vote with a Green Party vote or a Libertarian vote or something else?
I sure hope that they vote for one of the 2 main parties. I still meet people, however, who still aren't registered to vote, and it blows my mind. If you're not registered to vote already, I don't know how much interest you actually have in going to the polls at this point in time. I hope that people see when they go to the polls that, I don't want to say a vote for a third party is a vote wasted, but it is. I really truly think it is. And it sucks that the only way to change the system is to work within it, but by voting for a third party, there's no way you're going to be able to change the system. So by voting in protest for a third party you're just throwing your vote away.
Jimmy, if a young voter here goes out and casts a third party vote, in spite of understanding that dynamic may be there, why do you think they're doing it?
Well, because I think the dissatisfaction, there we go, starts somewhere. And you have to, if you really want to change how the 2-party system works, I think you have to go out and try to make it happen. I'm not sure that people are more engaged with the third-party candidates and their policies, or if they're more just frustrated with the 2-party system. I think that's a bit unclear.
Here's a question from the audience, and you're the editor of the newspaper, and I'm sitting here as well, so we both have to take this one on the chin. What role does the media play in perpetuating the 2-party system and preventing Americans from being exposed to new political ideologies?
I think we have to be very careful in the media, even here on campus. Just a couple weeks ago, we ran a front page with both political candidates of the 2 major parties on the front, pictures side by side, and stories side by side. We want to remain as unbiased as possible because we know that matters to voters. We know that matters to readership. That they want to see media that is produced that does not necessarily try to sway their vote one way or another.
But when I do the equivalent of that on radio, which happens often now because we're in the home stretch here, we'll pick up an issue and we'll look at it primarily through the lens of Donald Trump's position and language on it and Hillary Clinton's position and language on it. And we always get social media coming in and saying, why don't you give equal time to Gary Johnson and to Jill Stein of the Green Party? I mean, what do you think, Jennifer? Is are we trapped in a cage of the two-party system? Should the media be always talking about what the third and fourth or third-party candidates say? Or if they don't really have a chance of probably winning this time out, is that a disservice because it spends time where the winner's not likely to be one or the other?
I mean, I think at this point in time, it's a lot of it just comes down to numbers. So when you do have Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump polling most of the voters at this point in time, you're going to want to cover them and what they stand for, maybe more than Gary Johnson or Jill Stein, simply because they're obviously getting more support than either of those two candidates. So I think at this point it's just a numbers game, and you're just simply trying to fill the void of what those numbers want to hear.
To add to that, actually, I think that the content you produce needs to reflect your readership, and I think that's what you're getting at there. In that,
but your readership of the Kent Stater may have been strongly Bernie Sanders, let's say, or at this point, some significant portion for a third-party candidate.
And we definitely covered Sanders too, but I think now that we're in the home stretch and now that we do see, like you said, the polls are flip-flopping in Ohio, we're trying our best, even at the student media level, to try to remain as unbiased as possible.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, please.
I think maybe the media should do a better job of showing what the third party stands for, because if Bernie Sanders supporters are really thinking about voting for a third party, if they really knew what their policies were, and they would know that they wouldn't line up with Bernie Sanders' policy, and would then vote for who Bernie Sanders has endorsed, which is Hillary Clinton.
China, question for you from the audience. Do you all, well, for everybody, but let me give it to you first. Do you all think the fear of Donald Trump being president is enough for Hillary to get the black and minority vote, or people of color, as you prefer? And they say for all panelists, but I'll put it to you first, China.
Yeah, I definitely. Actually, real quick, could you reread the question
Yeah.
for me?
Do you think the fear of Donald Trump becoming president is enough for Hillary to get the black and minority vote?
Yeah, definitely, I do. I think, unfortunately, speaking specifically from the black community, we're very familiar with the whole tactic of trying to take down a system from working within it. And I think to vote against the two majors, I think that is exactly going against what we're used to doing. We're used to taking things apart.
One.
Yeah, taking things apart by participating in it, unfortunately. So I think so. He has been really bluntly. At least with Hillary Clinton, at least it's a little more like, you don't really know. It could go either way. And I think that is enough for them to be like, you know what, at least not Trump. So most of the time, for example, like we haven't had an event like last week, and that was basically the conversation. We were talking like, okay, what are you guys thinking? And the first thing I always hear is just not Trump, because he has made a point to be like, to say different things against people of color. So it's like, you're clearly not for me on a basic humanistic level, so why would you be for me in other issues? And I think that really will be enough for people to be like, you know what, even though I may, and kind of what Hannah was saying earlier, even though I may feel like Hillary Clinton has had a shady past, honestly, a lot of people that I've come in contact with haven't done their research enough to really go into that, so they're going to lean that way because they're going off what they see.
Michael Ensley, what do you see in Ohio? Do you see among people of color in Ohio this fear of Trump that our audience member here articulates, driving the minority vote, the person of color vote to the polls in big numbers this year? Can you tell where that's headed?
I think that's definitely a concern for that group, and I think it's part of the question of mobilization, because ultimately what's going to happen in Ohio is going to come to a question of turnout to me, and who gets mobilized and who doesn't, and how well the campaigns do that, but also sort of what issues that motivate them. And so it really is about the people sitting with me here and how they get them and their friends, and whether they get them registered to vote and get them to convince their friends, because we know one of the biggest things that gets people to vote is social interaction. It's not just hearing things in the news, but it's hearing it and talking to other people about it and getting persuaded by other people to register and to make sure that they show up on election day.
But is that enough compared to, let's say, what drew minority voters to the polls with the candidacy of Barack Obama?
I think so. I think the thing that we shouldn't overlook about Barack Obama's candidacy, yes, it was unique, and yes, it was attractive to young voters and minority voters, but it was also an organization, an excellent way of sort of mobilizing and getting people to the polls. And that was about personal contact, conversations, and identifying who those people were. And to me, that's going to be the key thing going forward.
Jennifer Hutchinson, you head up the college Republicans here. How do you feel? How do you respond when people look at Donald Trump and say, well, that's very racially loaded message that he gave during the primary season and beyond, that this is divisive, that we can't have it in this country at this point. You know, he went after the judge in neighboring Indiana here who was of Mexican descent purely on the basis of his Mexican descent. We've had lots of prominent Republicans saying that is racism. How do you respond to that? How do you step up and say, yes, but, I guess you're saying, yes, but I support him anyway?
I would not say that that's, but what I would say is that I think we have to look at the fact that I'm a millennial, I'm a Republican, and I think that a big frustration, especially with young Republicans, with college Republicans, is that they feel that they are painted, pinpointed, put in a corner as people of bigotry, as people of discrimination.
But I'm asking you about Donald Trump.
Right.
And I'm asking you in good faith.
Sure, and I would, again, but what I'm going to say is that whether Donald Trump says what he's saying, the party as a whole is not necessarily.
No, but I'm asking you here and now about Donald Trump.
About
his history of racially loaded rhetoric on the stump. Not about you or all Republicans. Sure. I'm asking how you think about that.
I don't agree with the rhetoric. I don't think, again, it's not, again, a lot of times it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it, and I wouldn't agree that the way he's saying it is going to speak well to a lot of voters. But as I'm trying to get at is that we still do have a large part of our party that doesn't necessarily agree with that rhetoric, does not agree with what he's saying. And I think we need to keep in mind, like saying that we're here to talk about what matters to millennials right now during this time.
But I know that racial tolerance is, if you look at all the surveys, racial tolerance is important to millennials.
Sure. Yes. And what I'm trying to tell you is that millennials in the Republican Party are frustrated that people want to think that they don't care about those issues, when in reality, those are very important.
Does it make your job harder then as a young Republican when Donald Trump is on the stump with the kind of rhetoric that he's exercised?
I don't know if I would say it makes it any more or less hard. I just think that we have to now find a new way to vocalize that those issues really matter to us. So I think it's now a new strategy in how we make sure that if people aren't feeling that that message is important to us, that we make sure that they hear that.
China, I can see you're hungry to get in here.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think
itching in her seat.
Yeah, just sitting there like, yeah. So I guess I know my personal biggest concern that I see, and it kind of goes back to the thing we were talking about when it comes to fear. I was kind of having this conversation with some of my friends, and the fear aspect I think that is most shocking about Donald Trump is the fact that the wave of support that he has. So even though, one individual person that is openly sharing some racist or, misogynistic viewpoints is one thing, but to have such a massive support and to realize some of the people that, I went to middle school with agree with some of the things that he's saying, then I have to kind of check the people I'm around. And that's the kind of fear we're talking about. And it was one of the things that I know that Bus is really popular on this year is talking about white privilege. And I think that plays a really big role into the millennials voting, because I think a lot of times it's like millennials are voting, but it's like that includes black millennials, that includes,
Sure.
that includes different millennial groups, and to kind of put that as a back burner, especially with the kind of racial tension that is happening in this country, is just kind of idealistic to be like, that's not as big of an issue.
But it is an issue. Hannah, as we sit here, Donald Trump is up by 5 points in the latest polls in Ohio. What do you think is driving that? You're head of the college Democrats. What's driving Donald Trump's success in your state?
You know what? I don't know. And I think...
You don't know?
Well, I have ideas, but then again, I've been surrounded by a silent majority for so long, and it's really scary. And I think what Jen was saying about her party, I mean, with all that said and done, he's still the nominee. He's still, at the end of the day, the Republican nominee. People support him. And Republican politicians have moved to support him as well. It's really scary. I think that I've been living a lot amongst so many people who believe this way, and I've never really felt any way about a candidate before, about the people who support him. Mike Pence said on the radio that the Muslim ban might move to other religions. Did anyone else hear that?
I don't know about that one, but he said a lot.
He said a lot, and it's just that's incredibly scary to me. But then again, all of this, we're going back to the main point of rhetoric. Regardless of whether it's true or not, they're saying these things to get support, and people are rallying up right behind it. They love it. They want more of it. No matter what he says, his supporters love it, and they're gonna keep wanting it until he wins. They're gonna go. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jimmy, you're head of the student newspaper. What do you think is going to make the difference between now and November 8th when this vote comes down?
I really think it's how they rally in Ohio. You know, I think being visible in a battleground state is key to connecting with voters, especially when we talk about Hillary Clinton and people say that they're having trouble connecting with her and there's a distrust with her. I think her visibility, not only on college campuses but across Ohio, is going to be key.
Well, we see Bernie Sanders coming to Ohio. We see Elizabeth Warren coming to Ohio. We see Chelsea Clinton coming to Ohio. Donald Trump just around the corner from here this week, and I'm sure he'll be in Ohio again. Everybody paying attention to the youth vote this year and much more. It's been great talking with you, all of you here at Kent State University. I want to thank China Baldwin, head of the Black United Students, Jimmy Miller, editor-in-chief of the Kent Stater, Jennifer Hutchinson, president of the Kent State College Republicans, Hannah Barkowitz, College Democrats, and Professor Michael Ensley, political science here at Kent State University, and everyone in the hall. Thanks to Johnny and the Apple Stompers who kicked us off here in our host station, WKSU. I'm Tom Ashbrook. This is On Point. It's been great to be with all of you. Thanks to our big, wonderful audience in the hall.